Alrighty, everybody, Lords of the West is upon us. We have our first DLC with AoE 2 DE, that even rhymes, and with it we'll have two new civilizations, Burgundians and Sicilians. Now, there's going to be a lot of content from a lot of people that's, I'm sure, all going to be very, very good in the upcoming days about these two new civs, their bonuses, their units, all that stuff. And I did want to take the opportunity to give you guys my thoughts, because I'm sure some people at least will want to know them, and especially because I have actually played with the civs at least a little bit, like probably an hour and a half-ish with each. And so I do have some experience with them, and just give you my thoughts on them, kind of go over the tech tree real quick, go over their units, where you will be seeing them played, how useful are certain bonuses given their constraints in the tech tree, all that stuff. Just quickly note, there is going to be, I guess you do need to pay for these two civs, Burgundians and Sicilians, but it's only $10, which isn't really that bad, all things considered. I know it's, a lot for some people, but you will also be getting 3 new campaigns, which unlock tomorrow as of me recording this. So overall, that is what the DLC will be giving you. And without further ado, I will be going through each of the new civilizations, starting with Burgundians, because they come first alphabetically. Hello, Tech Tree, my old friend. It's been so long. And you got some redesigns. So here we are starting with the Burgundians, a cavalry civilization. Very, very condensed history. If you don't know what the Burgundians are, Burgundy is a region of France. It's the people you fight in Joan of Arc and all that stuff. And they were their own little kingdom for a while, and they are, like Frank, going to be Western Europe, obviously. It's the whole theme of the DLC, cavalry civ, all that good stuff. But let's get into this. So, first and foremost, your eco bonus. Economic upgrades are available 1 age earlier. Now, what's really nice now is that the tech tree shows that to us. So I can visually show you guys. Gill nets, you can research in Feudal Age. Wheelbarrow, Dark Age, Handcart, Feudal Age, and of course here are the main ones. Your Feudal Age upgrades, you research in Dark Age. Your Castle Age upgrades, you research in Feudal Age. Your Imperial Age upgrades, you research in Castle Age, and that includes guilds, mind you. And banking is still an Imperial Age, but that's fine. The big ones are that you get everything else in age sooner. So how does this eco bonus play out? How is it good relative to other eco bonuses? Well, there's still a lot of playing that needs to be done of the civ, but from my experience, it is a pretty strong eco bonus. Double bit axe is a pretty easy pickup on the way to Feudal Age. If nothing else, you can grab horse collar as well if you really want before seeding in farms. You can grab bowsaw on the way up to Castle Age. You can even just grab it in Feudal Age, and it can really start to pay off quite quickly. So that's all going to be very, very strong. Does it give them like one of the best booms in the game? No. But it is still very, very good, and they have all the eco upgrades to boot, which is also very nice. But notably, it doesn't actually give you any advantage, ultimately. It's like the Cumin TC. It's only a boost if you make use of it in your strategy. So it's entirely timing-based. So you do need to make sure that you make use of this bonus in some way when playing as Burgundians, because otherwise you don't actually have an eco bonus. Well, not really much of one. So definitely something to keep in mind. Next up, these two kind of go together. Stable techs cost minus 50%, and Cavalier upgrade available in Castle Age. So, I'll go through all of their tech tree options, but just to briefly show you guys, this means, yes, Cavalier, you can research in Castle Age, and before you panic, no bloodlines. Yes, this is going to be a cavalry civ, a paladin civ even, with no bloodlines. But of course, the plus side is, 1, the techs cost minus 50%, and you can get the Cavalier in Castle Age. Now, without bloodlines, Castle Age Cavalier are essentially Lithuanian knights that have 2 relics. Like, they would have the same exact stats. Cavalier are just going to have 2 more attack than knights, because Cavalier naturally have 120 HP, but so do knights with bloodlines. So does that make them good? Yeah. But in the long run, it's not going to be as good. Also, in early Imperial Age, you can research Paladin quite quickly, and that's only going to be, what is that, 650 food, 375 gold? That's really cheap, guys. You can get Paladin very fast. But, of course, in the end, like, the Civ is very focused about just timing advantages. You don't have fully upgraded paladins. Your paladins cap out at 160 HP, whereas a Frank player will have 192, for instance. Also, Hussar is only, what's that, 250 food and 300 gold, so very affordable as well. Light Cav is also quite cheap. And again, still, though, missing bloodlines, so it's all about making these timing advantages work. You can see that sort of in concert between their first two bonuses. And they're, or I kind of grouped these together. The first three bonuses, I guess. Their last bonus is gunpowder units plus 25% attack. Now that sounds insane, but there are some drawbacks. First, hand cannons will be getting plus 4 attack, I believe. And that's pretty nice, right? You know, hand cannons with 4 more attack, they're going to just be better against everything. At least to some degree. But they miss ring archer armor. And this is kind of a bummer, because it means that your hand cannons are still going to be really bad against archers and skirmishers, and the extra attack doesn't really help you all that much in those situations, but where you are going to be extra strong is against melee units, of course. And I would even say cavalry, probably, because you just have that even higher base attack to help make that work, and missing the last armor upgrade isn't as big of a deal when it comes to melee units as it is with ranged units. So hand cannons, kind of like Mongol Hussars, better against melee units, worse against ranged units. Overall, still probably an advantage, though. Next up is going to be the Bombard Cannon, which will be getting plus 10 attack, so 40 plus 10. Now, again, that might sound insane, but you miss Siege Engineers. And maybe I'm wrong, but just from some very quick testing a little bit ago, it seems like Bombard Cannons benefit more from Siege Engineers than they do from the Burgundian bonus when it comes to fighting buildings, especially when there's the extra range to consider with Siege Engineers, which Burgundians don't have. So you do have to be careful about that, but of course your Bombard Cannons are going to be stronger against, you know, just regular units, with the exception that you don't have Siege Engineers, of course, for that extra range. And finally, Cannon Galleons, similar deal. They are not affected by Siege Engineers, but still, they just kind of do their thing, and they do a little bit more damage, but most of their damage comes from bonus damage against buildings anyway, so it's probably not that big of a deal. Also, this civ is pretty awful on water, so not going to be too much of an issue. Also, for the record, they do have Bombard Towers, but they do not benefit from the extra attack. It's units, not buildings. But I'll get back to that in a second. Team bonus. Relics generate both gold and food. Now, we can double check this when I go into their unique units, which I will show you in the editor, but I'm pretty sure they generate food at the same rate as gold, but like I said, we can go back to that. Regardless, getting a little bit of extra food is nice, but it is contingent on you or your allies having relics, so again, just more and more incentive to go for those. I'll skip the unique units for a second. Unique text. Castle Age 1 is Burgundian Vineyards. Convert all food into gold. Farmers slowly generate gold in addition to food. So, it will be costing 400 food and 300 gold, so a little pricey. And what does it do? It gives you 2 food for 1 gold. So say you have 6,000 food, you get 3,000 gold. That can still be really good because in late game, gold is worth way more than 2 food, so it can be a huge, huge power spike. And the farmers slowly generate gold. Now, I don't remember where the final numbers stood on this, but I believe it's like 40 to 50 farmers is 1 relic. So you're getting, in a super long game, like a relic and a half extra. Which, you know, is quite good, but don't be thinking, oh my god, I have unlimited gold. Like, it's not very much at all. But still, it's going to be nice in a very, very long game. And also remember that it costs gold up front, so if you're looking at it from that perspective, it's still going to be a little while before it pays off. And of course, the one that all the hubbub is about, Flemish Revolution, aka Ragnarok, aka Revolution, upgrades all existing villagers to Flemish militia, and you can create Flemish militia at town centers. Now, the Flemish militia, again, I'll show you guys in a little bit. It is essentially a big ol' heavy pikeman unit, and is good. It's got 12 base attack, 1/1 armor, and is essentially good against cavalry and is bad against swordsmen and archers. Pretty much what you would expect from a unit. It's just better than your average bear when it comes to spearmen. Now, all your villagers turning into this, when do you use this? You use it when you're ahead and you want to say, get the heck out of my game. You can use it as like a panic button, but I feel like that's probably not going to work out too well. But rather, it's going to be if you're ahead but aren't quite able to close out the game, then you get Flemish Revolution, and then you suddenly get like 100 more units, and then that becomes really, 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 really hard to deal with. It's going to create for some exciting games, for sure. It also researches very quickly, but it is 800 food and 450 gold and completely cripples your eco behind it. Now, you are still able to train villagers. You just have to start from scratch, essentially. And you can keep training Flemish Militia if you so desire. Which, by the way, is 60 food and 25 gold, so just a tad more expensive than your basic swordsman. Now, their main unique unit is the Coustilier, and it says Burgundian unique cavalry unit which can charge its attack. Strong versus infantry and archers, weak versus camel riders and monks. Now, it is just like your regular cavalry unit, and I will show this guy off in depth in just a little bit in the editor, but first I do want to go through the tech tree, and I'll just point out that it's a fairly cheap unit, and it gets a huge attack bonus, like 30 to 40 or something like that, but then it's on cooldown. So how good is that? It's kind of weird because you can kill weak units in an instant, but then it's kind of mediocre for like a little bit, and then you kill something again, and then it's a little mediocre. It's a really weird, gimmicky unit. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it'll be interesting to see how it is applied. It's fairly cheap, as you can see, 55.55. But we'll go over that in just a bit. Now, let us look at the tech tree, everybody's favorite aspect of Age of Empires. So, taking a look at the archery range, it's bad. It's also very similar to Frank's. This Civ is very similar to Frank's. You miss Arbalest, you miss Thumb Ring, you do have your hand cannons, which are nice. You do have Bracer, which is definitely one of the ways in which you are different than Frank's. Obviously, really bad cav archers. Archers are not going to be a strong suit of the Civ. Your hand cannons are going to have your extra 4 attack, and I would rate this a C+. No, I'm not Spirit of the Law. But yeah. Just to show you guys again, no ring archer armor. You do have Bracer. That means your skirms are going to be better than Frank's skirms, but they're essentially the same as like Hun skirms or Mongol skirms in late game. Not really that great, and especially since you lack bloodlines on your cavalry, will be giving you a bit of a weakness to archers, strong archer civs. Infantry. Now you have everybody at the blacksmith, and you have everybody here, but you don't have supplies, so you're kind of like Chinese in this regard. So, swordsmen, if you're up against like Eagle Warriors or like Mass Halbs or Huskarls or something, you can make it work, but you're going to need to really leverage the fact that you have a very strong eco like Chinese, and not really going to be benefiting much from, well, supplies and the food discount, which is going to be a bit of an issue in like mid-game, but late game, you should be able to spam champions if you need to, and your Halbs are generic but fully upgraded, nothing to complain about. You also have the Flemish pikemen, or Flemish Militia, rather, as your another alternative to a halberdier, but we can compare those guys in just a little bit. I already kind of talked about the stable. You have everything at the blacksmith. You can get Cavalier and Castle Age. Everything costs minus 50%, but you miss bloodlines, and obviously no camels, elephants, or steppe lancers. It's going to be an interesting Civ because it's going to have some timing-dependent, like, really strong power spikes in mid-game and in, like, early Imperial Age, but then it's going to really fall off in late game, which means that as a pocket Civ, I would say that Burgundians are going to be pretty all-in, especially when you compare them to a Civ like Frank's, which is going to be a lot more steady-eddy throughout the game. They are going to be, I think, the only Civ that has Hussars, but no bloodlines. Like, fully upgraded Hussars minus bloodlines, I think. So yeah, that's kind of an interesting distinction, and Hussar being cheap is quite nice, but again, you just miss that late-game staying power. But your Hussars are still better than Frank Light Cav, so you do have, again, that over Franks. Franks, by the way, also have fully upgraded champions, whereas you do not. So again, trying just to, I think, further showcase the differences between Franks and Burgundians, because they are similar. Siege. This is a lot less pretty. Now, at first glance, it looks very similar to Franks, of course, but they miss Heavy Scorpion. Franks do have Heavy Scorpion, for what that's worth. No Siege Ram, no Siege Onager. You do have the Bombard Cans with the extra attack, but again, as mentioned earlier, no Siege Engineers. Oh, man. Your Siege is honestly, guys, some of the worst in the game. Like, it's like a little bit of a shining spot that you have a better Bombard Cannons, but you're looking at Lithuanian level bad Siege. Capped Ram with no Siege Engineers means it's going to be really hard to actually break Civs with, well, Burgundians, and again, the fact that Franks have Siege Engineers is, I think, a big difference. Blacksmith, you have Bracer, Franks don't. Otherwise, you know, it's mostly there. Your navy, you do have the extra attack on your cannon galleons, but other than that, it is bad. Bad, bad, bad navy. You do have galleons with bracer, but you miss dry dock and shipwright. You do have fast fire ship, so that's kind of something, but no heavy demo. I mean, you're not picking the Civ on water. For their university, they just miss siege engineers and heated shot. So, again, you're not really playing the Civ on water maps. You have pretty much everything else you could ask for. Hoardings, so you do have your 7,028 HP castles. And of course, you do have all your fortified walls all the way up to bombard towers, keeps with arrow slits, bombard towers, all that stuff. So they are going to be a pretty strong Civ when it comes to defending. Your monks are pretty strong as well. Heresy is kind of a bummer, but your paladins aren't as of high quality, or your Custier, as say some other civs, so it's not like the end of the world. And Theocracy is just, it makes it a lot more annoying in late game. It means that you're not going to be using mass monks, but your monks are still probably better than Franks, because you do have Atonement and Redemption, so that's going to be quite useful in mid-game. And then, as I pointed out earlier, your eco is going to be very, very strong with your earlier eco upgrades, but you do have to actively make use of it, all that stuff. Alright, so we're here in the editor, and I just want to show off the unique units a little bit. So here we have the Custier with full Castle Age upgrades, and you see 115 HP, 8 plus 37 attack, and then 2/2 armor. And remember, no bloodlines. Dash is still very excited. Also, this little bar here shows its charge attack. So, because we have iron casting, it means it's plus 35. Now, as I will show you, this does not trigger against buildings. Not triggered whatsoever, so you can only charge against enemy units. And just for comparison's sake, I will show you how they will fare against a knight once I get through this outpost. Okay, so we're about to take down the outpost, and we're going to see how it does in an actual, like, 1v1 with access to its charge. A ton of damage, and you can see it dropped all the way back down to 8 plus 2, but it still has the same armor stats as a knight, but does it beat a knight with full Castle Age upgrades in a 1v1, and that's with its charge? Nope. So even with the charge, it still loses to a knight one-on-one. That's a little unfortunate. Alright, so how about a larger scale battle? These are, again, full upgrades in Castle Age. Custier against knights, and there are 2 more Custier, 12 to 10, then there are knights, just to about even up the resources. So you can see that from a cost efficiency standpoint, and once you get a whole lot of them with their charge attacks going, then they really start to be doing work. You can see we won this fight super easily. And the charge, it doesn't take too long to come back. So with the Castle Age stuff out of the way, let's see Imperial Age. So literally the same exact fight, but I just changed it to post-imp. And I didn't bother showing the 1v1 because they lose to Paladins 1v1, and this is Spanish, so it's generic full upgrades on the Paladins. And you can see that the Custier do win once again fairly convincingly, with them all having their charges at the start of the fight. And the Imperial Age stats are 11 base attack and 2/2 armor and 145 HP. So compared to generic Cavalier with Bloodlines, you're looking at 5 more HP and 1 less attack. And I'm not too sure about the movement speed. We'll have to look at that in depth another time. So the unit, it's going to be better in melee situations. I haven't shown it, but it's also going to be a fair bit worse against ranged units, as you might imagine. But it's still, I think, going to be a very, very powerful unit, but one that we'll have to see exactly how they play out. And yeah, I'm interested, because it's pretty cheap, and we'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to see how it plays out. All right, so closing thoughts on the Burgundians. Are they super OP? I don't think so. They're gonna be pretty weird, and it's going to be, I think, a little while before people figure out exactly how to best abuse the really strong timings they have. But it's not going to be just like an insert into pocket sort of civilization when it comes to Paladins. And I feel like on paper, I still like the consistency that Franks give you, because this civ is like super swingy all over the place. But they do have some very nice defensive options. Having the fully upgraded halberdiers is super important. The bad siege can be kind of an issue. For Arabia, I think that there's still going to be a pretty decent pick, but maybe not quite top tier. But again, we'll have to see how it plays out, and I'm sure you'll be finding a lot of Burgundians on ladder very shortly. So definitely keep an eye out for that. So that's going to be my quick Burgundians overview, guys, just from my short experience playing with them. And now let's jump over into our other new civ, the Sicilians. I don't know, that's my best Godfather theme. Anyway, we're here with Sicilians, the land of my ancestors who many, many moons ago immigrated to America, and eventually, a few steps down the line, I came about. So I guess my ethnic ancestors, even though they're really the Normans. So Sicily obviously is a big old island that's part of Italy now, but the in-game Sicilians actually kind of represent the Normans who came and conquered Sicily, and much of southern Italy, think the Bari campaign, and also ended up in the Middle East with the Crusades, hence their unique tech. So they're kind of like a hodgepodge civ from all over, but this is definitely a pretty interesting one. And yes, let's get into it with them as an infantry civilization. First bonus, pretty straightforward. Castles and town centers built 100% faster. Now, I initially had this as a Magyar bonus way back in the day. And by way back in the day, I meant like a month ago before I knew this was the thing. So this is going to be a pretty solid boost in mid-game on, like, say, Arena, where you're just getting your extra TCs up much, much, much faster, getting your booming going. Also, it means that your castle drops are going to be really hard to stop. And like a panic castle is going to be really, really insane as well. So rushing up castles with this civ going to be very, very, very good, both offensively and defensively. And here's the big one, guys. Land military units receive 50% less bonus damage. Now this bonus is bonkers, as you might imagine. So knights take, I guess, half damage. It used to be like minus 33%. I don't know if that's like them rewording it or if it like they changed it. But like their knights and stuff take like half the bonus damage from pikemen. Their archers take half the bonus damage from skirmishers, etc., etc. Like that's pretty insane. It is specifically for land units, so not for your water, your glub glub water. So we'll have to see exactly how this pans out. It also means that your infantry are going to be more resistant to hand cannoneers and gunpowder units. So that's going to be pretty nice, but it's kind of going to be the defining bonus of the civ, just going to be much more strong, just, I guess, surviving any sort of counter unit. And just going for counter units is still going to be necessary, but just not quite as good. Farm upgrades provide plus 100% additional food. That's actually pretty insane. I remember, like, the first game I played as Sicilians, and I ended up with, like, 900-something food. I think the bonus was, like, worded a little bit different, but I ended up with, like, 900 food farms. They just lasted for so freaking long, and it's not a bonus that kicks in right away, obviously, but you get horse collar, you get 150 extra food. With heavy plow, 250, but you only get +1 carry capacity. So it just saves you a lot of resources in the long run, but isn't going to be something that's going to be too effective early on in the game. It's like the Chinese bonus, but obviously way better. You do need to actually research the upgrades to get the additional food, so definitely worth prioritizing horse collar, as it will save you a lot of wood in the mid-game. As you know, your farms start to run out right in the mid-game usually, and if you have that extra 100% food, you can spend that wood on things like town centers or donjons. Yeah, those things. And all of that stuff, so that's going to be really, really good for the civ. Speaking of donjons, they can build those. There you are, it's the donjon. I will show this off a little bit in the scenario editor. 75 wood, 200 stone. Fortification used to train your unique unit. Unique building of the Sicilians. Units can garrison inside for protection. Archers and villagers shoot additional projectiles. Now, currently, the HP on everything is bugged, so it's not actually its HP. But 5 attack, 1 melee armor, 7 pierce armor, 8 range, 10 capacity garrison space. It's like a big tower. And you can build these in the feudal age. And you can also build them with villagers and with sergeants, their unique unit. And sergeants build donjons, donjons build sergeants. It's like a never-ending cycle of fortifications. And of course, the sergeant is going to be their unique unit. I'll get to that in just a minute. Their team bonus, transport ships plus 5 carry capacity, and plus 10 armor against anti-ship attacks. If you're thinking this seems like a ripoff of the Saracen bonus, which has plus 5 carry capacity and times 2 hit points, it's very, very, very similar. Your transport ships are going to be mega tanky, by the way. I think back when I played, the land military units, it wasn't land military units, it was all military units, so transport ships ended up taking like 1 damage from galleys or something like that. But it's still going to be really, really tanky and makes your landing operations, your amphibious invasions, going to be a much more powerful tool, I guess. And this is, of course, for you and your teammates, but I still think it's kind of a rip-off of an existing bonus, so I'd still like to see that change. But it's certainly going to be useful on water maps, especially in the landing meta that we're in right now. Much less so, though, on land maps, as it will be useless. Unique text. First Crusade. Each town center, maximum of 5, spawns a one-time batch of 10 sergeants. This is insane. Like, I remember the first time I researched this, I had 5 town centers, which you can build quickly, remember. And you literally get 50 units right away. And sergeants are a unit that scales through the ages, but they're kind of heavily armored but lower attack versions of swordsmen. Like, elite sergeants have 4/4 armor, which is, like, pretty bonkers high. So, kind of sort of ish like Huskarls and Teutonic Knights, but not quite as good at blocking arrow fire and melee attacks as either, but still, like, all around. 60 food, 35 gold. Like I said, I'll get to them more in a little bit. The Donjons and Sergeants obviously kind of go together, and I feel like showing them is going to be useful. But yeah, this is insane. Like, it's an absolutely insane power spike. It's great offensively, it's great defensively. Same thing with, like, their faster building castle bonus. You can just get so many units so quickly. And to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of it, because I feel like it's just like, oh, okay, I didn't know where you get a huge army. At least with Ragnarok or Flemish Revolution, there's a huge cost to it, and that you lose all your eco. With this, it's just like, okay, we'll just research it and just get a bunch of units. And in terms of actual cost for the tech, it is 300 food, 600 gold, so it's still fairly expensive, but obviously the payoff is massive. And speaking of massive payoff, Scootage. Imperial Age Unique Tech, each team member receives a one-time payment of 15 gold for each military unit they own. It's like paper money, but way better. So let's bust out the old calculator here. I remember getting this and it was insane. Remember, it's for every single team member. So say you have, 70 military in Imperial Age. You hit max pop, you get it in late game. Times 15 gold. You get 1,050 gold. That's pretty great. It's like paper money, but better. And paper money gives you 500 gold straight up, but this gives you even more. But it does cost gold, so I guess that would be like 600 gold, so it's actually not that much better than paper money. I'm just not a big fan of it, because it's like paper money, it's only a one-time boost. Most techs in Age of Empires are like a ongoing thing, which, not a big fan of that, to be honest, but it is what it is, and that is the unique techs for Sicilians. Now, taking a look at their tech tree. First, with the archery range, you can see that you do have Arbalest, Elite Skirmisher. You do not have hand cannoneers or any sort of gunpowder. No thumb ring, no Parthian tactics, no heavy cav archer. It's very similar to Burgundians, except instead of having hand cannons, you have Arbalests. And if you take a look at the blacksmith, it's actually the exact same as Burgundians, where you have everything except ring archer armor. This means that you have the same Arbalests as Aztecs, where it's like, you can go for Arbalests, and if you're playing flank in a team game, or if you're in a situation where you really want Arbalests, you do have, like, Arbalests with +4 attack, and +3 range. But missing Thumb Ring is kind of a pain, and is really kind of holds you back in terms of, like, raw DPS, and then missing the last armor upgrade obviously makes you even more fragile. And again, your skirmishers are going to be missing the last armor upgrade, but again, you have to remember that all these land units are taking much less bonus damage, so they're going to be tankier in themselves. Infantry, you just have a full barracks. Every single unit in tech, except for Eagle Warriors, obviously, as well as you have the Sergeant Unique unit. But yeah, kind of weird, because Sicilians are an infantry civilization, as classified by the game, but they have no bonuses whatsoever directly for their infantry, other than their sergeants and building donjons and stuff. but it's still, you know, just solid, good tech tree, all that stuff. And again, these units taking less bonus damage, very nice. Moving on to the stable. Right away, you'll notice Bloodline's Husbandry, and they do have +4/+4, missing Hussar and missing Paladin. And obviously no camels, elephants, or lancers. So on paper, this looks exactly the same as the Portuguese stable, but again, you have to remember that you're taking less bonus damage, and that is like the most relevant for knights against like pikemen and stuff, and camels to a lesser extent. And so you just have that extra survivability, which is really, really, really important. And I think Sicilians are going to be a pretty decent pocket civ, just for that reason alone. Even if you do miss Paladin, it's just you're really tanky. Now, they're not going to be a top-tier pocket civ by any means, and I would say Burgundians are still probably going to be better in that role, but they're going to be at least pretty decent, and at least they have Arbalests for being a flank civ. But that's kind of something I want to talk about in a little bit. Siege, way better than Burgundians. You have Siege Ram, Onager, Heavy Scorpion, no SO, no Bombard Cannon, and you do have Siege Engineers. Yes, you do. So, good solid Siege tech tree, not anything that really stands out, but Siege Rams with Siege Engineers, Onagers, all that stuff, good stuff. Blacksmith, we already went over this, they just miss Ring Archer armor. For their dock, it's kind of generic. You do have the transport ship bonus, but really that's it. Everything else is just, it's mostly open, but you miss Elite Cannon Galleon. So, that's nice. Just good stuff. You don't get the bonus damage reduction, I guess. But, yeah, so I guess they're not really that amazing of a water civ, just, you know, pretty broad tech tree. You're probably not picking them on water maps, though. At least not as a first selection. University and defenses. Yes, guys, you're looking at this right. They have heated shot. No. Well, I guess they do have heated shot, which is nice. Masonry, no architecture. They do have hoardings. Treadmill crane is nice. Siege engineers, arrow slits. Wait a minute. They don't have towers. That's right, guys. They literally don't have towers. No towers, not even watchtower. Only civ in the game to not have that. They also miss fortified wall. That's pretty weird. You are reliant on Donjons, guys. You can build them in feudal age, but 75 wood, 200 stone. These things are expensive. And if you're getting tower rushed, like my big fear if I'm playing Sicilians is just getting tower rushed, you'll build your defensive donjon, and if you don't have access to stone, you can't repair it even. Your opponent will just, you know, build another tower somewhere, and you can't, you know, build another tower unless you're already on stone, and then in which case, I mean, a 200 stone investment, 75 wood is also pretty expensive early on. It's pretty painful. I mean, donjons are good. They'll kill a tower quite easily, but I worry that just, are they able to kill towers when you can't even repair the donjon because you don't have any stone? We'll have to see, but it's definitely a very interesting route, you know, that they're going with the civ. Also, the faster building castles is super nice, and remember, your sergeants can build donjons, so you can kind of use them to push and train more sergeants to build more donjons. But yeah, no towers, no bombard tower, and then no fortified wall. It's kind of weird because the civ has really strong defenses otherwise, but I guess that's probably why they don't have fortified wall. So yeah, kind of just interesting how they're going about that. I'm not too sure what to think of it until, you know, we get some actual playtime. Your monks are really bad. You have Sanctity and Fervor, I guess, and Illumination and Herbal Medicine for all the times you're garrisoned. But yeah, you miss Redemption, Atonement, Theocracy, Block Printing. Really all you have going for you is Sanctity. That's really important. And for their eco, they have everything except for Two-Man Saw, which is just a good, solid, open eco tech tree. You do have the faster building TCs and the extra farm food, so you don't have an amazing early game eco, but late game it is going to actually be very, very strong with you having, like, you know, at least 800 food on your farms. Those guys just go on all day long. So with all of that out of the way, let's jump into the scenario editor. So here we are in the scenario editor, guys. First, we're going to compare donjons to towers and how sergeants can make them and how that actually all changes as you advance through the ages. So, as I say, advance through the ages. We're going to turn on Aegis real quick. You can see that you can get feudal age sergeants, but you do need to build a donjon to do that. So you can't, like, this is an impossible scenario in a regular game. And these guys in feudal age have 45 HP, 1/2 armor, and 5 attacks. So they have 1+1+1 more armor than a regular swordsman, but, and also the same HP. but they do have 1 less attack than men-at-arms. But they're still probably a better unit, as in, like, they're certainly a better unit. They are fairly slow, though. It's got their big old shield and axes. Now, right here I have Italians, allies, one with feudal age and no upgrades, one in castle age, one with all the castle age upgrades, and one in post-imp. Battalions have fully upgraded but generic towers. So let's build a donjon here. Actually, let's turn off Aegis, just to give you an idea of how long they take. They're 2x2, they have 1000 HP in feudal age. So this is 6 sergeants, and I believe sergeants and villagers have the same, I guess, build rate. So they take a little while to build. And you're ending up with something that has 300 more HP. So there you go, you can see we can make donjons, or sergeants now from the donjon. And they have a garrison capacity of 10, which is obviously double that of a generic watchtower. 8 range, 5 damage for both of them. And just like it said earlier, you can garrison villagers for added arrows, just like so. And you can garrison even more villagers, so each individual donjon is going to be pretty powerful. Now I'm going to turn Aegis back on. We're going to click up to Castle Age and just see exactly what happens. Boom. Donjon now has 1500 HP. It fires 1 additional arrow, and still has 8 range, and all that stuff is exactly the same. So if we get all of our Castle Age upgrades, you can see that same HP as a guard tower, only 5 attack though, whereas guard towers have 7 base attack. So you're going to be firing 2 arrows, but they're not going to be, each arrow isn't going to be as strong. And at this point in the game, they're actually the same HP as guard towers, so you're getting less HP per stone spent, I guess, if that makes sense. Also, now taking a look at your sergeants, guess we can get +2/+2 on these guys. So with all the Castle Age upgrades, I mean, you also benefit from Squires and Arson, but that doesn't matter here. 8 attack compared to the Longsword's 9, so 1 less base attack, you can see the similarities here. 60 HP versus the 60 HP of a Longswordsman. 3/3 armor. That's getting pretty crazy. Now you're looking at an additional 3 extra melee armor compared to a swordsman, and 2 extra pierce armor. So these guys actually have the same pierce armor as Eagle Warriors, although they're much, much slower. So these are some tanky little guys that can run around with their axes. And they're not too expensive. They're definitely a little bit high on the gold cost, but not too bad. And also, I think this is why they changed it so it's not, like, say, a scout doesn't go from 3 to 3/+2, they just now becomes 5. I think it's because of the sergeant, to be honest. Anyway, let's go up to Imperial Age, and just as soon as you hit Imperial Age, you can see you fire 1 more arrow. So you fire 3 arrows in total in Imperial Age. And with Masonry, you're looking at 2475 HP. That is actually with Architecture, and we can't research Architecture. But regardless, if we research Chemistry and Bracer, you can see we'll just be benefiting like that as you would expect. But also arrow slits. Yes, you can get arrow slits with a Civ that doesn't have towers because it also does affect donjons. So there's arrow slits now in, and we went from 5/4 attack to 5/7. So it does benefit in the same way that it does benefit a keep. So 12 base attack times 3 is pretty darn solid, and if you're just plopping these down everywhere in late game, I mean, obviously you don't actually get Aegis in real games, but you can see how you can just throw these things down, and they can do work, and then you can just use them to train a bunch of sergeants. I want to see a stream of sergeants, man. There we go. Look at them go. Also, now that we are in Imperial Age, you can see that they actually do have the same exact stats as they do in Castle Age, which is kind of weird, because the unit gets better automatically in Castle Age, but not in Imperial Age. And of course, to actually improve the unit, you need to build a castle, and then research the Elite upgrade, which is pretty standard for an infantry, actually a little bit on the expensive side. And that will get you, of course, Elite Sergeant. Just grab Blast Furnace and Plate Mail, and we can see the stats of a fully upgraded unit. Actually, you can see how well I prepared for this. Let's just go ahead and get a fully upgraded champion for comparison. I guess I could have done this throughout all the ages, but, you know, hindsight, all that stuff. Okay, so we have our elite sergeant versus our champion. The sergeant is going to have 5 more HP than a champion, so at this point we actually have more HP than the swordsman counterpart. And then you have 2 less attack, so that's not quite as good. But look at this armor difference, guys. Champions have 1/1 armor, sergeants have 4/4 armor. Yeah, that's pretty insane. Again, same base Pierce armor as Eagle Warriors, same base melee armor as Castle Age Boyars. Like, these things are absolute beasts. And just taking a quick look at the speed. Again, I haven't gone into the Genie editor yet, but it looks like that they're about the same speed, if not the exact same speed as a swordsman. So overall, the sergeant definitely going to be a better unit, and remember that this guy's also taking less bonus damage. So yeah, that's going to be pretty bonkers. Let me show it off in a little bit of combat. Alright, so here we are, seeing sergeants versus champions, generic champions from Spanish, full upgrades for all of the units, and yeah. All of that aside, they still lose to champions in a straight-up fight with resources controlled so that each side has the same resources. Now, if we make it same number of units, so 10 for each, last time I had 10 sergeants versus 12 champions, then you can see the sergeants will end up winning. So they're not going to be cost-efficient versus champions, but they are going to be population efficient, and also remember they can be building donjons, and of course the extra pierce armor is going to be helpful against ranged units. But I think that's all I really need to show off for the time being. This isn't really like a super in-depth test on the units by any means. So guys, that is the Sicilians. Kind of a wonky civ, kind of like Burgundians. I'm not too sure when you really want to be playing them. They're kind of solid in most settings. They're solid for 1v1 Arabia, they're solid for 1v1 Arena, they're okay team game flank, they're okay team game pocket, they're okay on water maps, not amazing. Okay, I guess, on hybrid maps, not amazing. I just don't know when I really want to play the Civ. So I guess that's just going to be something we're going to have to figure out over time. I guess Burgundians are a little bit more straightforward in when you should be wanting to play them, because you can just play them in the same situation as a regular cavalry Civ. With Sicilians, I'm not quite as sure. They're certainly not really bad in any game mode. I think that it's going to be pretty easy for them to open with either archers or cavalry, or you can just start going for your sergeants, although that's probably not going to be all that great. But a lot of donjons throughout the game are going to be really strong, but I'd definitely be careful of tower rushes when you're playing as the Civ, because those things are so expensive early on. So yeah, guys, that is the 2 new civilizations, Burgundians and Sicilians. Definitely kind of wonky civs, like I said, but we're going to need to play them, I think, to really get a good grasp on what exactly they're good at, what they're really not quite good at. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of really great content coming soon about all of that stuff, but I did want to give you guys just a quick overview on the release day, so to say, just because I think you guys would really appreciate knowing just, okay, going into this, what the heck does this Civ do? So hopefully you did learn that, and if you did enjoy it, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and of course I will see you all next time.